Hi everyone. This is just a continuation of what we did um, on the last video, which I actually did was looking into Barman, and this is just kind of a continuation of that video. On the last video, we saw how we could configure Barman. We saw how we could install and configure the Barman server on one host, and we saw how we could take backups. And the actual configuration that we did there was using um, streaming backups and war streaming. We saw how to get that configured, and we also had a deep look into recovery, where we did point in time recovery, where we did a full recovery, and we also did recovery both locally and also did a remote recovery. And we also talk about synchronous war streaming, and we saw how we could get that configured, and we saw how when we configure synchronous war streaming, and then it's just basically it's changing the synchronous standby names in the PostgreSQL.conf file of the remote Postgres server, and which just basically just reduces the recovery point objective to 0, and just by collecting the transaction wall files, just like a synchronous server would actually do that. There are other things that we also saw on that previous video was we looked at different types of commands, which are mostly used with BART. We looked at the diagnose command. We also looked at the list server. We looked at the archive wall. We looked at the backup. We took some backups. We looked at the bad check command. We looked at the list backup. We looked at the rebuild xlocdb. We also looked at the receive wall. We looked at the replication status, and I kind of really explained that on that video. We look at the show server. We look at the status. We looked at the archive wall. We also look at the check backup, and I think we also look at the list files. So how we could do list files, and we looked at recover. As I've already mentioned, we perform a couple of recovery. So this particular video today kind of will be, and one of the things also we saw was that we actually installed the barman CLI on the remote servers, and we took advantage of that barman CLI to which we could use for our archive command and our restore command. And some of the main parameters we use there are the barman-wal-archive and the barman-wal-restore. We're going to be looking into those once again. So today, what we're going to be doing today is we're just going to continue a little bit on that series, and we're going to be looking how we could make use of the barman-wal-restore, the barman-wal-archive, and we're going to see how we could also set up rsync, because the one we did on the last video was just doing a backup using streaming, which was using a PG-based backup. So today we're going to see how we could configure Barman to take backups using rsync, which means that we have to configure SSH. And we're also going to see how we could also um, um, implement incremental backups. We're going to see how incremental backups work with Barman and how we could take some backups. And at the end of it, we're going to look at Geo Redundancy, which is basically just talking about. I think we already talked about that on one of those videos, and Geo Redundancy is just basically uh, having two bad servers. Let's say you have a bad server running on the US, you have another bad server running in Europe and you want to sync backup within the BART servers, and then having them use a different retention policy. So let's just quickly dive into here so that we don't make this long. So looking at this is the settings we had last time. Just make sure that I can still be able to connect to this server if it's still working as it is. Okay, it's fine. So this was the backup we had, and remember here this was the setup we had. So this was a master server, which is actually streaming to two of the servers, to 151, and also streaming to 152. And we also had a replication slot there, which is actually using the barman receive wall. And remember, this replication slot was set when we also just from what I mentioned earlier about synchronous wall stream. So when you create that, it will just basically change your wall level here to logical, because initially, if we look at the wall level, we show wall level here, we'll see that it's now logical. Because why? Because we do have the bad wall stream here. And just to conclude about that, if you go over, this is our bad server where all the backups have been taken here. So if we open up the bad server, and I kind of just named it to be US, because we're going to see how we can perform geo redundancy here. So this bad server is in US, and then I have another bad server here in Europe. So this bad server manages this master and these two standbys here. So for now, we're having it backing up the master server here. So let me see, am I here? Okay, I'm a barman here. So if we look at the barman, I think it's replication status of our master server here. And this is what I explained in the previous video about replication status. So when you've configured barman on a master server, barman can actually still send you information about the standbys that are connected to you know, that master server. So if you look in here, you will see that initially we saw over here on the master server, we saw that we're having a replication slot here, which is using the barman receive wall, and that you could also see on the barman replication status here. And this is actually using synchronous. And under here, you see here using synchronous wall stream. So under here, you could also see that you could see the two servers we have, 151 and we have 152, and all of them are doing async. But this barman-wal stream here, you could see it here. So you could see both of them here sync. Then these two are doing async. So which kind of really gives us a whole lot of redundancy there. So here at this point, the servers which we already configured. So I think it should be list servers. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. So now we just have one server here, which we configured in our last video, which is basically taking a backup of our master server over there. So if we just do barman check to make sure that all the configuration are still there as expected. So you're supposed to make sure that, when you do that, you'll be able to see that everything should show okay. It shows everything is working fine. So if we also want to see what are the backups we had here, we're going to see that we took a couple of backups here, right? And All of this was done on the last video over here. Okay, so now um, here, if we remember, I did show server. If I do show server, this particular server here will show us a whole lot of information here. We're looking at this particular host here. You could see that for now we're just doing just a normal a local archiving. Because if you go to that master server itself over here, you will see that we do show archive command, right? We're doing a local archiving here, as you could see the report from part show server here, doing local archiving. And this command kind of pulls out very important information that you can have. You can see your backup directory, where the backup directory is. You can see, so the information pulled out here is also pulled from the BAD configuration files as well as from the PostgreSQL configuration file, which really gives you a very good information about what is going on here. Checkpoint, we all set this config file. You see, it shows you where a Postgres config file is, connection info, it shows you where our master server and the connection info that is there. And what else again can I really show here, which makes some immediate checkpoint? We actually set immediate checkpoint to true because so that it should do immediate checkpoint. But you can actually decide to do that when you're running bad. You can do hyphen immediate checkpoint, and it pulls that information, as we could see over here. Just a quick view here. If I go over here on the, if I cd to etc slash barman, so we're gonna see this is the configuration file for that master server. So if I just cut that file and just, oops. So if I just cut that file, you're going to see that we actually did included that here. Immediate, you see, where's that? Mm, okay, now we didn't include immediate checkpoint inside this server here, inside the the server's configuration. So we included it in the global section. So there is another file where it's in the global section, which is barman-conf file, which is in /etc. If you open that file, you will see that we did enable that somewhere down here. Where's that? Okay, here it is. Immediate checkpoint. We set that to true. So it picks up those parameters from these configuration files. And then coming down here, we see it's archiving, PGs in recovery. So it kind of runs PGs in recovery here, and it says false. And you know the master server is always false. But if you run this on the standby, it should give you true. So it gives us a couple of information here, replication slot. These are all informations that are inside my PostgreSQL conf, right? If I go up to the master here, you will see that it pulls this information from my PostgreSQL installation, and it comes to gives you all from the BAT server. So BAT kind of really collects very useful information there. PG-based backup, we see some of these informations that were also set in there. All of these are known because we don't have any pre-archive scripts. If you had any script, it will be there. So BAT kind of provide you an option to also include your own personal scripts that you might want to run before backups get deleted, or before backups are taken, or before WAR files are deleted. So you can kind of mention that too as well. So So you see here, streaming archive is set to true and all of that. So a whole lot of useful information here when you run that. Okay. There's something here I want to show here, which is passive node, which is equal set to false, and this is just this is because without this node is not working as a passive node. So a passive node is basically a node that is configured for for geo redundancy. So which means that if this particular batch server is streaming backups from another batch server on another on a different geographical location or a different host, then it will be a passive node. So for now, it's not a passive node, and we're going to see how we can configure that. Parallelism set to true. I did set that also in the configuration file. So that's what I just wanted to show now. So next, what we're going to do here is that we're going to look on how we can actually set a barman archive for the master server, because we already saw here on the master server that we're doing a local archiving. So because we have barman CLI already installed on this server, right? On the master server, we installed barman CLI. So if I run something like, you will see that we have that already installed there. Right? So we have barman, I think, yeah, CLI. I think we should have. It's kind of slow. So we could see here we had a barman CLI version 2.12, so which was installed on this node. So this barman CLI kind of really comes with the barman archive restore and the barman-wal-archive, which we're going to see right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to change my archive command, and the way in which you do that to change that archive command is you will need to open up the PostgreSQL.com file of this particular node, of the master node, and you will need to include the barman wall archive there on that particular node. So how do we do that? Let's just go ahead very fast and let's set it into PG data. Let's do, and we see that, and then we're going to open PostgreSQL conf file, right? And okay, you see, we set this earlier on for that. So we're going to look for archive command. Archive command. Yeah. So we see here, which we already set that. So we're going to set that, and we're going to delete all of this, and we're going to include the barman wall archive, and we're now going to specify on which host is the barman server running. So this is our server here, this is the barman host here, and if I do ifconfig here, I'm going to see that it's running on 153. I can copy that out, I come over to the master server, and I can include that here. It's running on 153, and which is a server. This server, how is it configured on the barman server? If I go over to the barman server, as we already saw there, and if I do list server, I will see that it is configured as master USA. There's a master server for USA. I can pick that up. I come back here and I include that over here. So this is going to be the format in which you will be able to include the barman, the wall archive on the master server. Right. So I can go ahead and save this file here, and let me run pgctl reload. And if you run that, let's connect to the server and check if the archive command has changed. So we see here that now the archive command is using the barman-wal-archive. Now, it's always a good habit to test to make sure that this will work. And to be able to test that it will work, you will run the same barman. You have to run this barman CLI command, and you will perform a test, and you will provide the actual node where it's running on, and you provide the server as well, which is running on. So this is just a test that you run at the operating system, and for you to test. So what you want to get from this test? Note, I'm not running this on the database. I'm running it from the OS. So if this works well, it will give you something like, oh, it's ready to accept, connection or whatever. Okay, you see here it says I'm ready to accept WAL files from the server. So with this set here, you sure that your WAL archiving is working well, that which you have said is working fine. And Barman automatically picks this information as well. Because if I jump back to my Barman server here, and if I run the show server, if I run the show server here on the Barman host, I should see that it has changed over here. Okay, you see here, the barman is picking that up also from here. So it indicates that the archive command on that destination server has changed. So this is how you can set up your barman-wal-archive, and you can also take backups as, let's just take a backup here. And we're going to specify jobs of 2, and we're going to back up the same server. So as we already saw earlier, when you were doing a wall stream, it requires PG-based backup. So it is actually performing a backup. A backup is being taken using copy via PG-based backup. So remember we mentioned about the path prefix, which you need to set in the configuration file, which will actually call the PG-based backup, which is just some sort of you specifying the location of the binaries. So we could see here that it says waiting for WAL archive, which definitely we already saw this last time. So it will, if I do these backups for this server, okay, it already got the backup immediately. So sometimes when you run that, it will say waiting for WAR file, and then you will see it here. So you could see that this is the, if we see here, just do date. This is 9:33, so this should be the backup that just took place, and this is the backup ID here. Okay, so the next thing which we want to see here now is we've set up the WAR archive over there, and we've set up the WAR archive, bad WAR archive. Now you can also set up the bad WAR restore for your restore command. You can also perform a bad WAR restore for your restore command on your standby node. All right. So basically, if we see here that these are our standby nodes, we have these 2 standby nodes. So we can jump first on 151, which is, this is 151 over here. So let me just connect over here to 151, and you could see here that this is my 151 node here. Okay, so if I log into that server and I do show archive command here, I'm gonna see that it is pulling. It is my archive was initially it was remote, right, on the master server. So my archive command is copying on the standby, is copying from the master. So, but right now the master is sending his archive to a bad host, right? So if this guy goes over there, it might not see this archive. So because right now the master is sending the archive to the bad host. So you need to make the restore command. Oh, this is oh, sorry. This is, I was showing about show. I was talking about the restore command. So restore command, because this archive command is not really necessary here, because anyway the standby is not archiving, so that's fine. I was talking about the restore command. So you see here the restore command is picking those archives from my remote server. It's actually SCPing it from the master server. So, but now this, in some case, it might go here, it will not find it because now the master have configured it to be sending its archive to a bad server. So here on the restore command, I will need to change this to barman-wal-restore. All right. So let's just quickly do that. Let's go to the data directory. Okay. So if I do here and here, and if I vi postgres.conf, let me look for the restore command. Look for restore command. So see, this is a restore command here, and we will need to change this. All right. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to delete all of these, and we are going to mention, we're going to put um, the barman wall restore. Okay, barman-wal-restore, and then you specify the user that it should use, which is barman, and you specify the IP address of the server. 192.168.91.153. 153, which is our barman host, barman server itself. All right. Then we'll need to specify the server itself, the actual master server where we configured here for barman. And that server is master USA. All right. So we have to go to the standby server and we can specify that there. All right. And we can leave it as it is like this. Then this should be fine. So we can save this file here and let's do a reload of this. Okay, let's connect and see if that has changed. So it has not changed. So let's see. Sometimes since I'm using Postgres 12, it might be, I just want to check in the Postgres autocomp file. Okay, yeah. So sometimes kind of hooks up here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get rid of this guy here, and I'm gonna save it, and I'm gonna run a pgctl reload again. We connect to the server and see it's still showing that. So what I will do here will be I will restart this server. Oops. I will restart that server. So I'm gonna systemctl restart edb Postgres 12. That's gonna restart that server. Just make sure it's backup running. So it's backup running. So let me connect back there, and I should see that now it's changed. So now what I see here is that my restore command is now using the bar-wal-restore, which is saying, okay, now if you have to restore WAR files, go over to the barman server as a user barman and restore them, which is cool. And then when you have this, again, you will need to test, right? You will need to test just as we tested, just as we did a test for the barman-wal-archive. We need to test this to make sure that it works very well. So on the operating system, I will still need to run barman-wal-restore, and I will need to specify the hyphen test that I'm doing a test, and I will specify my bad holes and the actual server there, and what again? Yeah, and I'm going to specify that this is dummy. Okay, dummy. I don't want to pull anything or restore anything. So this should be able to pull me information. This is not right. So when you have this issue, it's not right. So it shouldn't give you, and this is why it's always good to test, right? This is the reason why it's a good practice to make sure you test this, because if it asks you for a password, then the restore won't work. All right. So what I'm gonna do here is that I'm gonna just stop this operation here. I'm gonna find out why it's asking for a password. Basically, it's because it's trying to connect to my server as a user barman, but maybe I have to share the keys. All right. So let me send the keys over there to let me just quickly send the keys over to the to to the barman host as a user barman, and 192.168.91.153. So I'm gonna send those keys over there. So it asks for the password. So the keys have been sent. So let me try that again. So it shouldn't ask me for a password now. Okay, good. So and this is how you expect it to go. It shouldn't ask for a password, so that all the WAR files, you'll be able to kind of receive those WAR files. So here we could see that everything is working as it's supposed to be. All right, so that's working fine. Okay, and we can set this for all other files, for all other servers. We've just said that for the standby server. We can also do the same thing for the other standbys, for them to use War Archive, and that that should work absolutely well. Right, that should work fine. So back here on our barman server here, oops, kind of timeout. So back on our barman server here, okay. So we could see here where this is our master. If we cd into the master server, see here, these are all the backups that we've been taking. They're coming over there, errors written there, and it automatically creates this folder when you create that configuration file, and you see that all your war files kind of coming here. Okay, so that's that for the barman-wal-archive and the barman-wal-restore. So what we're going to look at now is um, okay. Let me see what we can look at now for is okay. I did mention about setting up resync, because if you're using um, if you want to do incremental backups, then the stream backup that was set up, which is using PG-based backup, it will not work in this case. So let's see how we could set up and take backups using rsync. All right. So in that case now, what basically we need to do here is that okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over to Europe here, and I have two servers here, but I haven't really installed anything there. So I have a barman server here and another Postgres host here. And let me just quickly log in there. It looks like I've not installed anything yet on these servers. They seem to be basically just empty. Let me quickly. I'm just going to do that from scratch so that you see any errors that we get. We'll just walk through making sure that we fix them and moving ahead. So what I'm doing is these two servers here. This is the master server in Europe, and it has its own batch server. So it's independent from these first three setup. So this is just a single server in Europe, and it has its own barman server that only backs up this one server in Europe. So that's what we're going to set up. And this setup to back up this server, we're going to set up using rsync, since in this other case we've seen how we could use the PG-based backup, which is basically a war stream. So let's quickly log in here, and it kind of look like this server is, I don't have anything installed on this server. Let me see if I do have, let me see, grab EDB. Okay, there's Postgres 12 running. I have Postgres 12 installed here. Okay, and let me do that and see if I have any barman. I don't have anything for barman here. Let me see. This server is running on what? Let me just quickly increase this. It's running on 185. And this guy, which is a barman server here, let me see what is running on. IF config. This guy is running on 187. Okay. Okay, so let me see here. It looks like I don't have anything here as well. Grab EDB. Oh, there's Postgres 12 here, but okay, but I don't surely have nothing for barman here. Okay, it's nothing for barman there. Okay, so I'll just go ahead now and run the installation. But first, let me make sure the server is up. Let me just quickly log in. Let me see if I have a server run. It's not running, but I have Postgres installed there. Let me see. Let me see into AS12. Let me see into data. Oh, it's empty. Data directory is empty. Oh, it looks like it was installed but not initialized. So, which means that I will need to initialize this particular cluster. So, because the data directory is empty, so let me see. I will have to go to the binary of Postgres 12 installation, which is bin, and I will have to. It should be in this location. There should be this executable of iPhone 12 setup here, I think, and in a DB. Yeah, it should be in a DB. Yeah. So, what does it say? See log initializing database. Fetch. See. Let me see. What is it saying here? There's nothing in the logs. Okay, I think I know why. So let me remove this guy here, and let me log in as root, and let me run this same command again. Yes. Okay, so the initialization, gotta do that as root. So it's been initialized. So if I log back in as Postgres now in this location, I should be able to see my files. Okay, which is fine. Again, I need let me just quickly create a bash profile here so that okay, I have this bash. I'm just going to take out everything inside this bash profile. Right? And I'm going to, I think I have a bash profile somewhere. I will just repopulate this here, the same information there. Okay, and I'm just gonna source that. And what else? Mm, looks like. Let me just open another terminal here so that I can kind of be fast on this. So systemctl start edb. So that should be able to system sys. Okay. So let me start that server. Show the server I started. Okay. That should be fine, and I should be able to connect now. Okay, that is fine. So I need to just prepare this server here very quickly. Sorry guys, I was supposed to get this done earlier on, but I didn't. Let me just create user barman with super user password. I'm gonna give it Postgres. You might not create yours with super user, but you know, that's fine. Let me see where I am here. Let me go to the data directory. Am I there? Let me vi the Postgres qr.conf file. There are a couple of things I'll need to change here. Like what do I need here? Let me just look for the wall level. I'm just gonna leave that to replica, and I'm gonna look for the archive command. And oops, I'll not get something there. I'm gonna turn the archive on. Just some basic stuff to get this going. And I'm just gonna set a simple archive, which we'll see later. I'm just gonna put it in var lib edb, and I'm gonna create an archive location here. F, and what else here? What else? Replication. Okay, I'm just gonna get these ones. I'm just gonna leave these values as they are. I'm not gonna set. This is just a test box, so I'm just gonna put some rough values there. Wax replication slot. I will need to set this. Let me just put it to 4. Comment this, and let me see. I will just put archive timeout here. I'm just gonna put this here to 300. What else again? I'm just gonna leave this like that. Okay. And remember, I created. I'm gonna do mkdir archive. Just create that location for archive, which I did. And then what else? Let me open up the PGHBA. A lot of things here. For simplicity purpose, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna run the SI. I'm just gonna run ident just to change those information inside there. I'm just gonna put this to trust. I'm just gonna leave that as PG HBA conf, and I'm gonna change this peer here. Okay, so that I just change everything here to trust. So what I'm gonna do here is I might add another location here for for barman or barman, and for simplicity, I'm just gonna put /0 here so that we don't have to. And I'm gonna do the same for host here. I'm gonna put a replication. It's gonna be barman. I'm gonna put 0, 0, 0, 0. Oops. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. But you know, in your own configuration, if it's your normal configuration, you have to make sure that you put the actual values there, like the actual IP addresses. Even trust, you need to get that out and make sure you can either you secure it with LDAP or whatever you're using. But this is just a test environment we have here. All right. What else? I'm just gonna restart this server. I'm just gonna restart that server. Make sure it's running back. I see, okay, Carver is here, so I should have a Carver there. And the next thing is I'm gonna create a PG pass file. Okay, I'm gonna say all the hosts. I'm gonna let it come from port 554, connect to all the databases, barman with a password, Postgres, okay? And I'm gonna save this file. And the next thing is I will need to change this file permission because all secure files should be changed so that they are owned by the actual user, can be opened by them because it contains password anyway. So if I list now, I see the archive location is empty. Let me just make sure my archiving is working very well. Let me do pg switch wall. Okay, switch wall. Let me just switch wall here. Switch it again. Switch it again. Okay. Let me see if it's switching here. That means it's fine. My archive location, so my wall, my archiving is working fine. So from this server, I think we should be good here. One other thing which we will need to install here will be, I will need to install the barman CLI. So here, let me just run a yum install barman CLI. Yeah, barman CLI. Okay, barman CLI. Not no much. Okay, I'm just installing the barman CLI. No, nothing there. Say yes, install that. Say yes, get that installed. Okay, barman CLI should be fine here. Now on the barman server, this is the barman server right now. The barman server, I don't need to install Postgres there, right? I don't really need Postgres running there. So it's just basically, I just need to install barman. And this time around, I'm just going to install the full barman package, okay? Okay, so, oops. Barman. You can still do barman, right? Oh, I just keep forgetting to put -y for it to do that. It's just gonna keep prompting me. And sometimes before you run in this installation, you might need to have the second quadrant repository so that it goes very well. So if not, then you will need to get the second quadrant repository so that you can get that installed. So get that going. Okay, that is fine. And then the next thing I will need to do here is when this get installed, it actually create a user called barman, right? If I look here, oops. Oh, I'm talking barman, but I was supposed to type something else. So it create a user called barman when you run that installation, right? So what I'm just going to do here is going to change the password for barman. I'm just going to give a normal password that I can remember. Okay. And I'm going to switch user as barman user. All right. Then I'm going to create a PG pass file for barman, and I'm just going to say allow or host, but you might, in your situation, you might not be able to allow. You might specify your particular IP addresses or host, and then allow all the databases, and then the user is barman, and then the password is Postgres. You might also give an encrypted password. Okay, you might. It's not a must to put the same password. Just a clear password. You might want to encrypt it if you want. Just want to make it secure. So here, in the barman home. So what I do here, let me just open up another um, uh, another window there. So when you run this installation of barman now, the first thing you will need to do is, since we already have barman here, I need to make sure that I generate SSH keys and allow them to this server. So this is a new setup I'm doing in Europe here. Remember the other setup, we did that in the old video. So that's why I'm just doing this too here now. So since I'm logging here as barman here, right, I can generate SSH keys here, all right? SSH keychain minus T RSA. That's actually SSH. So this is SSH, say yes, generate the keys. And over here, the master server, I can log in as Postgres. This is as Enterprise DB, sorry. So I'm here as Enterprise DB. I go to the home location. I can also do SSH keygen minus T RSA. Just generate those keys. And I can decide to SSH the keys across. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to SSH these keys to the barman server. Let's use a barman. So what is the IP address of the barman host? Let me just check again. And sorry guys, I did not, this is 187. I did not set the host name in the etc file. I would have set the host name and just use the host name, but I didn't do that. So you might not be putting the IP address. You might just need to set the host name and get that done fast. So 187. So for me, I'm doing the IPs. I need to make sure that the IPs are accurate. So yes, I want to send that across and add that. So I need to check what is the IP of this server. This is 185. So back here on the server as a user barman here, because I'm user barman, so I need to SSH them across over to the Postgres server there, 192.168.91.185. So I need to send that yes, yes, and yes. So it looks like I didn't set the password here. That's one thing too. So let me just set that. Enterprise DB, Postgres. Okay, then let me come back here now. Make sure I put the password. Okay, that should be fine now. So now I can SSH over there without it asking for a password. All right. So when that is done, what I want to do is that I want to edit my files. All right. So I'm in the barman server right now. So as I mentioned earlier, there is the main files first, like I can call it the globals files for barman. Right, it's a barman conf, which is fine in etc. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to leave it to be used as, I'm just going to leave the barman user there. I'm going to leave the same barman host there as default. The info compression, I can leave it as gzip. I don't have any scripts there to add over there. And parallelism, I'm just going to put this to 2. I'm just going to put parallel jobs to 2. And immediate checkpoint, remember as we did before, we can add immediate checkpoint here. And we change this to true. And what else? Network compression. I'm not going to use network compression. And that is kind of really good when you're moving files across network. And timeout, I'm just going to leave that. What else again? I'm also going to give retention policy, and I'm going to put this to 1 week. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this as default here. And note, when you're configuring barman, if you look here, I'm actually in the barman home right now, and this barman home is empty. When you start the configuration by default, it is going to create the folders here for your configuration, and we're going to see that. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save this. So I've saved, this is the main globals file. So I can also open up, I can open up the barman d, and so let me just cd into that directory. No need going. So these are the different files. We already saw this. When you're creating a passive node, you can use this as a sample template. If you're configuring Barman for backup using SSH, you can use this. If you're using backup for streaming, you can use this template, right? And we're going to see how we can use these two both now, because we use this streaming on the other side, on the US side. That's why we use streaming. So here we're going to be using SSH and passive, and we're going to use passive is basically when we're doing uh, geo redundancy. Okay, so I'm going to copy this out, and I'm going to create a file here. Since we're in EU here, I'm going to call it master EU. I'm just going to call it mastereu.conf. You can call it any way you want. I just made a duplicate of that file, and I can edit that file now. So the couple of things you want to precise in here is the SSH. What is your SSH command? Remember we had an SSH command which we enable SSH. So for SSH, I'm going to say that I'm SSHing to my Postgres server. And remember, this is our Postgres server here, and it's running on what? It's running on 185. Okay. So here I can come over here and I precise. And this is just because I did not set the host name. Okay. I would have just specified the actual host right there, 185. Okay, the next thing which you have to specify here is the con info. I'm just going to leave this to EDB. I'm just going to leave barman there as well. And I can also specify this here. All right. And resync. Remember, this is one of the things when you're setting up for wall streaming, this is set to Postgres. But since we're doing resync with SSH, it's set to resync. And we're going to talk about reuse backup later. We're going to talk about that one later. Jobs. I'm just going to say, remember I already set in the global sections to 2, so there might not be any need for me to do that here, but I'm just going to do that here. Okay. So now there are a couple of things also which we might need to set here. And one of them, as I mentioned earlier, is, and we're going to see those errors and we'll try to fix them. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave these as they are so that we see the actual errors, and we'll try to fix them, right? Sometimes it can be kind of challenging. So I'm just going to leave this at this level, and I'm going to specify EDB slash, and this is the location of my binaries, okay? So I'm just going to leave that like that. And what else again do I want to mention here is I've set up the wall method, which is set to resync. And oh, what again? I can set my streaming archiver. I can also set the streaming archiver. I can add it there. Streaming method, which is okay. You can always put that on there too as well. What else again? I can also add, because even though it's doing this, you can still add the streaming con info here, even though you're using this, but with that will still work fine. Sometimes remember there are a couple of different configurations that you might decide to use when you're doing this, and which kind of which kind of still works well. I put my con info over there, and I'm gonna put my user there to be barman. Okay. All right. So for now, I'm just gonna leave that as it is. Um, Nothing much here. Just gonna leave that as it is. I'm gonna save this file. Now, most of the times when everything is working okay, when you save this file, it will create. Oh, and there's something I forgot to do here. I was supposed to change this description here. This description here is supposed to carry my master EU, right? So I'm gonna save this. And sometimes when you do that, it actually creates a file in here. Sometimes I always get concerned when it doesn't create that, and it's kind of annoying, and you will need to make sure. Sometimes it just kind of takes a while, and it will create that file there. Okay. So, and if it doesn't create that file there, it's kind of annoying to really see what the issue is sometimes. You just want to make sure that everything is 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 provided very well. Mm, okay, make sure your SSH command is well. Your path prefix is okay. Mm, I've found sometimes where just closing these gaps can it just always just fix it for me sometimes. Yeah, but yeah. So sometimes you need to make sure that that file is created here. So if the file is, it sometimes it takes a little while, but it creates that file there. Um, what else do we need to look for? Let's just give it a little while. Let's give it a little while. We should be able to get that working there. Um, I don't think there's anything more we need to add to this file here. I don't think so. We have something more to add to that file. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, sometimes I always kind of be like, what the heck? No. And so let me see. Mm. So before we do this, there's always a check to be done, all right? Let's check to make sure that everything works well. Because sometimes you can be doing that and there's an issue and you don't know if the actual it's working fine. So there are always a check you want to do. So now here, what I want to do here is I'm connected here as barman. I'll try to see if I can get access to the Postgres server just by running a select version on that server, right? And I'll just want to run a select version as the user barman, since I already have barman in there and I know where my Postgres server is running. 91.1. I keep always forgetting the server's IP. Since, yeah, it should be 185. Yeah, 185. Yeah. So should be 185. This should run without an issue. Okay. So this is a problem. So this was supposed to run without PSQL database barman does not exist. Okay, let me use the database EDB. Okay, good. So this works, which is fine. And another things times I want to do is to check for the identify system, just checking uh, for replication if you can create that identify system. Okay, and I want to check for replication equals 1. Why are you giving me that? Okay, let me remove this guy. Could not execute command and was send office. Okay, cannot execute command. Hmm. Identify system. Sometimes just crap. Just want you to put it in caps. Kind of crazy. Yeah. So this works well. I can be able to identify that system. So, so all possible checks shows that a connection to the Postgres server works very well. But now we have an issue with barman won't create this. So, and this is sometimes why I don't always want to use. Let me see. Using here as barman. Not using any. Let me just check this first. Immediate checkpoint. Uh, that should be fine. And over here, my SSH is cooking as enterprise DB going up because this should be able to work without any problem. You know, if I try to run that same command, it should work without any problem, which is fine. I can exit. Okay, that SSH works. Config host using barman streaming con info. Config info 185. Use a barman rsync. Other option exclusive. Archive equals on. This looks okay now. I should be able to give me. Oh, this is really serious. Why is it not? Because what happens is we're supposed to have, if we're not missing something, it's supposed to create us. You can always change this, right? It's not a necessity, but this should not be the reason why. Master server for EU. Okay, so this is weird. This shouldn't be the issue. But I've seen cases whereby I need to separate that, but mhm. Okay. Um, if this doesn't work now, then we will need to check it out. Okay. Sometimes it's really annoying to get this thing to work. For some reason, I don't know why. It should create those files. Yeah. Mm, let's see. And um, because when it does this, let me see, cd etc, cd etc. Okay, so I'm just going to run a barman check on master server. So basically, it's saying here that we have a couple of errors here. So it's always really good to run this to verify everything you've done. So it says configure streaming connection, cannot connect to Postgres, use a barman, not a valid connection string. So let's quickly check that. Here I am master streaming has verified that streaming connection string. Let's see what we have there to fix there. Let me see. Okay, so we have streaming con info. Oh, I see. We're missing something here, and that's the main reason why it's good to. We miss something here, which is host equals to. Okay, so it's kind of always good to make sure you run the barman check, which kind of gives you some information about what is going on. So let's save this and let's run another check again over here. Let's run another check. So you see the errors are disappearing one by one. Okay. So fix that one. It's no more there again. Then receive wall. That's the issue now. Please make sure wall shipping is set up. Okay. Wall shipping should be working. All right. Let's go back to our bats. So our Postgres server here. And let's log into the database. Let's switch wall. That should be working. And wall is working fine. Wall is working. Bad receive wall running failed. This receive wall is not running. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a replication slot, run for it to create a replication slot. So what we will do here is if we connect back to our Postgres server here, and if we run select star from PG replication slot, slot, sorry, slot. We're going to see that there's no slot here. All right. And we're going to create a slot. Remember we talked last time about the PG receive wall where we create a slot for that. All right. We need to run that so that we can create a slot. So let's go back to our server here. Okay. So you could see there that it just takes some time and that disappears up. So it cleans up. So now it could be able to pick the PG wall which is running. And we could actually see that if we run ps -ef grep grep PG wall. So we could actually see that it's running. So that's why it cleared up there. So when it started running, everything looked fine. Even the archiver, it should clear up soon. So the archiver should clear up soon. That should that should clear up soon. Let's go ahead and create a replication slot. Right, it should clear up that one. So we're gonna use barman receive. So it's gonna be barman receive wall because it's receiving wall from over there, and then hyphen create slot, and we're going to put the name of our server. Unable to create physical slot name configured option. Oh yeah, we're missing the slot name. So you can always specify the slot name to be anything. So let's go ahead and put the slot name. We're just going to include the slot name inside this file. Okay, we can put it anywhere here. And we're just going to put that slot name to be called barman. All right, we just ask it to clear the slot name called barman. Nothing really special. Okay, and we're going to run that command again, and this time it created the slot name. All right, if we jumped over to the Postgres server right here and we run that same command again, we're going to see that now we have a slot that is created, but it needs to be active. All right, this slot needs to be active. So if we go back over here, let's run our check config. It gives an error. It says here that the barman, the slot is not yet initialized. Is it running? So yeah, so the slot it will pick up. It will definitely pick up and start running. So and when it start running, that should be able to clear off. Right. Uh, should be able to clear off there. What else can we check again? But what we need to do is just to make sure that all those errors clean out from here. All right. Okay, let me just kind of switch wall again over here. So it should be fine. It should pick up soon. I don't think there's anything blocking that slot from running right now. It should be able to pick up very soon. Let's just give it a little moment. It should pick up very soon. So what I'm just gonna do here now is I'm going to go over to it's my main server and I'm gonna restart the Postgres server. Just gonna make sure that it's running. Yes, it's running. Let me come back here. And while it's running, let me just stay there again and check. So let me just connect here and let me check the slot again. Okay, good. So you see the slot is active now. So sometimes it's just you just need to just restart the Postgres server and the slot now is active. Yeah, which is fine. So right now, if we go back to our server here, and we list here, we're going to see it creates a file, it creates a location as I mentioned earlier. It creates a folder here, sorry, not a file. So if we cd into that location, it creates all these directories where the WAR file will go to streaming, the incoming, and we're going to see what to talk about the incoming. The base, this is where it keeps all its files here. So now let's run our bar check again and see if everything should be good. Fine. So everything looks clean now. And this is how you need to have your BART, your barman, sorry, I keep saying BART, your barman set up to look, everything should look okay. That looks beautiful, then everything should be good. Then you're good to go. Okay, so at this point, if we can run any barman uh, list server, and we can see that we have one server here, the master EU, which we already which you remember where we included that inside this file. So it lists that server there. So now let's attempt to do a backup. Let's just and for now, if let me just do a show server, and let's see information about this server. So from here, you can already see it doing a local archive command, archiving locally. And we already saw this already for one of the servers already. And we could see some of the informations here. Yeah. So let's run backup here. A barman backup of this server. Now, what I want you to see here is it says doing rsync. Remember over there when we're doing a backup, it says waiting for WAR files. So if we do list backup for that server, we should see this is the only backup we have. It says it's waiting for WAR files, because definitely it will get the WAR files and it should clear off soon. Right. But one thing I want to show here is remember is doing backup using rsync. But remember that on the other side, on the other barman which is running on USA, the barman running on USA, which we configured for war streaming, if we attempt to do a backup in that USA, this is what it's going to tell us. It tells us backing up using Postgres method, and it's actually doing PG-based backup. This is the war stream method. It's not doing, it's a war stream method. But look over here on the one we configured on EU, it says it's doing rsync. All right. So that's what I wanted to show. So you see here, everything was waiting for war files. It got the war files and it's good to go now. Let's run another backup again, right? Let's just run another backup again. And that runs really fast, doing rsync. And let's list backup. That one too is waiting for walls. When the walls are received, it's going to clear up, right? It's just going to clear up that, that space. Okay, now that we've seen how we can configure both for WarStream and this other one and rsync, what I wanted also to show here is that um, um, we can also use rsync for archive. Remember over there in the USA we used a barman-wal-archive, right? I want to see how we can also use rsync too as well. And rsync will be sending those WAR files to um, to the BART server. All right, we're sending those WAR files to the BART server. Okay, so now how can we get that? So I think our backups should be okay. And yeah, so we list backup. We have just those two backups. And what we can see is that all these backups go into the base, right? If you see the into the base here, that's where you see those backups. As you could see, these IDs, that are the same IDs you have here, right? For each of those backups taken. And then we have the WAR files in this location, right? Right. So if we go into the walls, you will see that we have walls. We see the WAR files for that, right? We went into a little more deeper on how we could pick a particular backup and see all the WAR files associated to each in um, the previous video. So right now we're going to see how we can set the the WAR the WAR archive to rsync, and it's going to be doing rsync over here, over um, to the BART host, to the barman host. Sorry. Okay. Now let's go over to our Postgres server. Because remember, we ran the BART show server, and that was show server. What is that? Okay, BART show server, and you could see here that it's doing a local archive as we configured initially over there. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to go to the PostgreSQL config, pg data, and I'm going to vi the PostgreSQL config, and I'm going to look for archive command. And here on the archive command, I will need to set this to rsync. Now, how do we set this to rsync? It's just a simple way to do that. And all you do, you will specify rsync here minus a, and then you put your percentage %p, and then it's going to send it to the barman server, right? And then you have to specify the IP address of the barman server, which is 187. And now you need to, here, this location is a location of your incoming walls. And if you go over to the barman server here, over here you see this location called incoming. And the best way to pick up that location is when you run this BART show server, you should be able to see that incoming walls directory. So you can pick this incoming walls directory, and you go over to your barman server, all right, and you put it there. Just put it there like that. So what it's telling it is that, okay, you're going to be sending those WAR files to the barman server into this incoming wall. It doesn't mean that the WAR files are just going to remain here, but they're going to be also applied into the WARs directory. But you'll see that later. So we're just going to save this, and we're going to run pgctl reload, right? So when we reload that over here on our server here, we could see here this is our incoming walls, right? So it's empty. Sometimes it doesn't mean you will okay, when you set that up, okay, now it's good to test. So how do you test this one now? The best way to test is to switch wall using barman. All right. So what you want to do, okay, you go over to the barman server, and we're gonna run barman switch wall, and we did this command on the other video, and we're gonna put just gonna force, and we're gonna say archive, and we're gonna put a server. Oops, master EU. So we're gonna force a wall. That we list this. We could see here that we have incoming walls now inside the walls directory, right? Initially, look at it. it was empty. But when now we force a wall, we could see here that now we have files entering into the incoming walls. It's 38 here, but initially it was empty. So when you do that now, you see that this is the actual wall that has been archived. So this shows us that the archive command we set over there is working. Because if we go over to the main Postgres server here, we could see that we have an archive command which is there, which is working fine, right? I don't know. I could have just typed this already. Right, sure. Archive command. So we see that our archive command is pointing over there, and the BARD server has picked that up, right? If we go into the wars location, we should be able to see that this particular war is there. Let's go here and we list the wars, right? And you see that that is a war that has come over, right? So it shows that our rsync. So this backup we're doing here, we're using rsync, and we are also doing archiving using rsync, right? So I just did that both, but it doesn't mean that you must only use the same both, all right? So now we could be able to see how that plays out, and that works out uh, very well. And you can do your backups and everything, and that should be fine. Let's do another backup again. Supposed to start check the logs from auditors, barman check. Let's see what is saying barman check. What is going on? Barman check master. Continuous archiving failed. Hmm. It's an issue with the archiving. Let's see. But it works, but failed. Why it should fail? Oh yeah, that should be able to work. I don't know why it failed. Continuous archiving failed. Why? It just worked now. Mm, that's weird. That should be just that should be just possible to stand back or check the logs. Mm-mm. This is weird because we have this server working here, which is configured to send this over here. Oh, I might see the reason why. Maybe I was supposed to, yeah, let me check. Look like I made a mistake. Okay. Let me change this to -a. Yeah. Put a -a there and reload. And I think that should fix the issue. Okay, let me force an archive again. Okay. Okay. That should be applying. I applied 1E, 1E. Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah. So it's working now. I just made a little error there. Put a hyphen. So sometimes it's always good to make sure everything is working fine. And that's the reason why I said we will just do this from scratch so that we see some of the issues you might face and how you can overcome that, which is good. you just see some of the things that you face. So it's just good to do a demo like this. So now we see that we're able to get that working. List backup, and we could see we have a couple of backups there now. Okay, next thing. The next thing which I want to show us here, and I think we don't want to get this video too long, is we want to see how we do incremental backups here. Now, in term incremental backups with Barman, it's basically a file level incremental backup. So, which is just a type of periodic backup which only saves data changes, right? It just saves the data, and note it is file level backup, all right? And this incremental changes, it heavily relies on rsync. So we can set that incremental backup for Postgres mode. It's mostly with rsync, right? And it just basically creates some hard links, all right? And in order to get incremental backups, if you see here, like for these backups that we've taken here, okay, in order for us to have incremental backups, there is a particular parameter which we can specify, which was commented out, and that is reuse backup. This reuse backup here, we can set this parameter. When we set it to link, what we're just telling it that is that it's just saying that it should use the last backup for the server and create a hard link for the unchanged files. So this basically really saves a lot of space and time reduction. There is another parameter if you don't want to put link, another option. If you don't want to put link, you can also specify copy, which is also reusing the last backup for the server and creating a copy of the unchanged files. This basically mostly just to for time reduction, all right? Or you can decide to put it off, which was just basically its default. So it can take link, it can take copy, and the default, which is off. So we're just going to leave it into link and we'll see the difference here. So I save this and note this. Let me just take another backup again and show you a difference. Now look at this backup which I'm taking now because I have enabled let me see. Look at this backup which I've taken now after enabling. Look at the previous backup. This is the previous backup I took. This is the information it gave me here. If you look here, it says that it's doing a resync, which is fine. It's finalizing and it's telling us the backup size on disk, right? It's telling all of that. Now look at when I enabled incrementals, right? After enabling incremental backup, look at, and this is the line I want you to concentrate on here, which was not in the previous one. You have this deduplication ratio, and it tells you that you're saving 99.96% because it is doing that. It's doing an increment. And if you look here, it says that the backup size is 50 MB, MBI, MIB. This is just megabyte. But the actual size on disk is actually 18K. So you are actually saving 99.96. So this can really be time saving and space saving when you're using that. But note this is file level incremental backup, right? You can see how much you're saving there. So that's one of that's just a basic of doing that's just how you can do incrementals with uh, with Barman. You can decide to specify that parameter when you're running it or not, right? If you want to override the parameter, let's say you want to override this parameter because I've set it inside a file, what I can do is I can decide to increase that, I can include a parameter here by using something like use the same parameter, right? I say reuse backup equals link, right? I can try to specify like this. If I want to put copy, I can do that. and it will still be able to take your backup. If you want to, if you have a particular one you want to use, you can. Or if I put copy here, as I mentioned earlier about copy, is different, right? You will not see any deduplication ratio there, right? On the physicist, you will see that it's it's different. So you don't see anything like deduplication here, right? So whichever option you choose that works for you, that's fine. But note you can always specify this at runtime. You can always specify a couple of parameters, immediate checkpoint, as we already saw. You can specify all of those information when it's running, right? You can do that, okay? Just like, let's say you run this, if you want to specify immediate checkpoint, you can do hyphen hyphen. Even though we already have it at immediate checkpoint, you can do hyphen hyphen immediate checkpoint, right? And it will perform an immediate checkpoint. And so there are a couple of parameters. If you want to override what you have in your files, you can specify all these parameters and run it, right? If you do not want the checkpoint, you can still say no checkpoint, depending on you, right? Put no checkpoint and it still run. So whatever you want to, however you want to do it, that should work for you, right? Okay, so we've covered quite a lot already. Barman list backup, and we see a couple of backups now. Okay, now the last thing which I want us to kind of look into here before we close out this topic is looking at geo um, um, geo redundancy, right? I always just say geo redundancy, but just can So it's just like if you have two bad servers, right? If you have two barman server, right? So when you talk about geographical redundancy, it's just like your cascading backup. It's just like a cascading backup architecture. It's just like if I have a barman server running in this case here, we have a barman server running in USA and we have a barman server running in EU. We can decide that even though these barman servers have their own servers that they do backup, they have their own servers they backup. We can decide that, okay, if I take a backup in EU with a barman server, it should automatically sync to the the barman server in USA, right? So whatever backup I take here, whatever backup I use the barman server here and I take that backup should be able to immediately also sync over to USA. Now, note very well that all these backups that we take here, we have a retention policy for them, right? So remember that we already specified retention policy. All these servers that we have, all the backups we are taking here do have a retention policy. Now, if you look here, we see that we have a retention policy. Where's that? You see, we have a retention policy here. Now, the advantage, and this retention policy works for these backups that we take locally, we take in EU. Now, if you're doing a geographical redundancy, you have the possibility of also specifying a retention policy only for those backups that are being moved across those geographical regions. So you're shipping a backup to another region from another region, but it has its own retention policy, which is independent of the retention policy taken on that region. And it also kind of helps you have your backup safely in a different region. In case something happens in this region, you have your backup in a different region. So that's just what we're going to look into now. So now take for example here that we want to move, we want that all the backups we take in EU should automatically resync to USA. So the first things we want to do here is that we want to exchange keys, right? So what I'm just going to do here is I'm going to copy my key from here over to USA, and I know USA is running on 192. You know, this is just a demo, so 92.168.153, and I'm going to send the keys over to USA, and this keys is only between the BAT servers, right? I'm sending it from one BAT server to the another BAT server. The Postgre servers have nothing to do. So I come over here on the BAT server in USA, and I make sure I exchange the keys too as well. I'm connected here as Postgres, so I'm just gonna SSH copy minus ID minus I, and I'm gonna specify barman add 92.168.91.2187. That is the barman server over in EU. So I'm going to send that across there, and I specify the password. So what I've done now is that the barman server in EU can now communicate, or the barman user can connect over to the barman server in USA without a password, and vice versa. So within the barman servers, they can communicate very well. Now over here now, what I'm going to do here is that I need to change, I need to create a passive node. Now note that this node is not a passive node, right? Look at here. If we saw earlier here, we saw that this node is false. This is not a passive node. And when we will do that, for now, since I'm doing a geographical redundancy, I need to use this template. So I'm just going to copy this template, and I'm going to create, and I'm going to say, you can give it any name you want, right? I'm just going to call it, I'm just going to call it barman, I don't know, whatever, barman sing from, I'm just going to, I just want to give something from USA.com. Barman, oops, this is not barman, so sorry, it's kind of weird name, barman sing. So I have this barman sing from USA. That means that it's going to be syncing all the backups from USA, bringing it over here, right? It's going to be syncing all the, and this node is going to now be called a passive node, all right? So I'm going to need to edit that. Barman sync. I'm going to open that up, and now over here for the node here, what you're going to do is you're going to specify the name of the node, the name of the server, sorry, the name of the server that is in USA that you want to sync, so that when it connects there, it should know which server it needs to sync, which server's backup. So, so over here now, over in USA, I have just one server. If I run here, barman list server, I have just one server, which is the master in USA. So I want to sync this master in USA. So I can copy that and I come over to EU. And that is what I'm going to specify in here. The master server, the master USA node where I'm specifying this. And then the next thing is, what is the SSH command, the primary SSH command? So it's going to SSH as barman to my server, where to my server that is over in USA. So USA is 153. All right. So I provide that. I know I've already enabled SSH for that. Encryption or that incrementals, I'm not going to use increment. I'm just going to leave everything as default. So I'm going to save this. Now that we save that, if you list here, you just think on our normal BART server here, you just all you're seeing is the master EU, which is our normal server here in EU. But because I have a passive node right now, right? And because I have a passive node right now, it is going to, when I start, it's going to create its own location right here. Okay, now that we have this created here, uh, what you can decide to do is if you run something like uh, barman list servers, I think we forgot to let me just see. Let me open up that file again. Let's give a description for it, right? Let's give a description for this server. Let's say backup sync, backup sync from USA. Okay, okay. Master USA backup. Okay, backup sync from US. That's fine. Let's just leave it like that. You can give whatever description you want, right? So if we do list servers here, you're going to see here that here on this node, you're going to see here that we have backup sync from USA, which is at USA, which is on a different region because we are in the EU region right now. I think what I'm going to do is so that for clarity, let me do this. Let me do let me do EU region. All right, and EU region. Let me do this. I just wanna EU region. Okay, so that whatever we're typing here, we should be able to see which region we are. Wait. Barman EU region. Let me do it that way. And then over here, I'm going to put the same thing so that we see which region we are in. Barman USA region. All right, that makes sense now. So note that we are in EU region right now, and if we run list servers, we see that we have a USA server here in the EU region, and it is a passive server. It's passive. So all the backups that we have for that server over in USA will be sent over here immediately. Whatever backups you take over in USA for this server will be synced over here. So if we list this location now, sorry. So we see here that we have one automatically created for USA. Immediately we did that. So let's cd into that for USA, and that should be copying the backups already. Look at it. The backups are already coming. I forgot I should have shown you very well. So you see here, these backups have been synced directly. If sometimes it's just that it looks like they have already been done already. You would see resync going on here, but it looks like it already finished. So we'll not be able to see that on the top command, but it is happening. That is what it just happened right now. So if you go over to USA here, right, and over to the US region, and with list servers, we have only one server, obviously. And if we do BAM and list backups, right? BAM and list backup for that server. Okay, we have a couple of backups. It shows that they are still coming, right? So if we go over to EU here, we should see that the backups are coming. Look at it. So here, look, one just increased right now. So obviously over in USA, we have how many? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think I hope I counted well. 8. But over here, we have how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're still coming in. So it's actually live syncing by itself. It's going to copy all the backups. And this is done at the background by itself. All right. So now it's syncing the backups automatically over to the server just by that simple configuration. So you watch here and you will see, look at one is in what has added again. So 500 is finished, now is 659. If we look over here on USA, we'll see that this is 659 just finished. So now maybe certainly the next one will be 2220729. All right. So 2222 hasn't appeared yet. So surely after this 222 will come up. Okay, list. All right. All the backups will come over. If you just give it a couple of minutes. So this server now is a passive server. Right. If we look at why the backups are running at the background, if we look at show servers here, right, we're going to see that this guy now is a passive server. Look at passive node. Passive node. Let me see. Oh, it should be the US region. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So if I come over here now and I do barman show server, all right. So passive nodes, no, it's supposed to show me through here. Yeah, it should be here. Let's just give it a while. Let the backups finish. And oh, I know why. Just give it a while. Let those backups finish. We'll see that. That should be up soon. 2, 4, 6, 7. Yeah. All right. And there is actually a parameter which we can use to see the actual status. I think that should be able to pull that up when we run that, which is barman sync, right? Which is barman sync info, and you put the primary master USA. So you want to see USA master USA is the primary, right? So this gives you a whole lot of information here, a whole lot. So it will give you information about USA because when you use that particular sync, it will pull out a whole lot of information for each of those servers backups that you took, a whole lot in JSON format, right? A whole lot of information here. So which you see here, the backups are almost being brought over already. They are already here, right? So I want to really show this. Show server that we have just had here now. Okay. Passive node. It should be somewhere. It should really show us. Let me see. So if we do list servers, it should show us we have a passive node. Yeah, which is our USA basically. That's our passive node, which is passive. Right. Which makes sense. So you could see here that we have a passive node here. This is USA. Okay. This USA is the passive node. Suddenly is a passive node. So yeah, I don't know why that's not showing, but yeah, there are other commands which I want to show you now before I just wanted this 2468. So all the backups are here now, right? So if we look over here, we could see that all the 8 backup 2468, all of them have been brought across over here. 2468. Okay, now question is, what happens if I decide to take a backup here? If I take a backup here, immediately the backup is finishing, it's sending it across. Let me just do a backup here in USA. So immediately this backup finish, it will automatically be sync over. And that's the beauty of having this geographical redundancy, is that when you take a backup, you have your backup on your on that particular uh, 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 um, you have a backup here, but it's actually also sync. So if you look here, you see that this is the one that just got taken now, which is 457. If you go over here, that backup should be coming already. Okay, it's not there yet, but that's good. It's good that it's not there yet. There's something I want to show you here, where a command you can use to sync those backups. All right. What you can do is that over here, if I want to sync, I just hope it's not there yet. 2468. Okay. So in order for you to sync backup, there is also a command called um, sync. This is sync info. So you can do sync backup. So you can indicate sync backup, and you can precise the server, which you already know is master. It's master USA, and you can specify the backup ID. So let's go over here and we pick the new backup ID which we just had, which is a new backup ID, and then we can come over here and put it here. So we say sync backup. We can decide to request for this backup. When we press enter, oh, you see here it says already sync the master server. So I think if we list this location, it should be there. See, it's already here. So it just did it automatically. So, but you can also use a sync backup to sync a particular backup. So you see that immediately that backup finished, it's synced automatically. And you can do the same thing over here, right? In such a way that if you take a backup in EU, it will sync to USA. You take a backup in USA, it will sync to EU. So you can like cross them together. So you can do the same thing here. And we can quickly do that since we already have that. We can go over to EU. This is the EU's, this is the USA server here, right? This is my USA server here. I can create a copy of this and I'll call it. Let me just copy the same from here and I'm gonna change the name and I'm gonna call it, I just copy just a name. So here I'm gonna sing from EU, right? And I'm gonna VI that backup sing from EU, and I'm gonna put the EU server here over here instead. So which means that I'll have master EU, and I'll specify this server here as backup from EU. I just leave it like that though. So backup from EU. And all I do now is I can specify the actual IP address of EU 168 dot 91 dot 91.187. All right, I'm just gonna leave that like that and save that. That should be fine. And you see here, it will create a one already. All right. And one thing I want to show you is now that we have a backup, if we run the same command we have been running over there, which is list backup list server, sorry, list server, we will see our passive server there. You can also run a barman check on that, right? You can also run a barman check to make sure that everything runs well. Since we're in US, barman check on our EU server. It will give you this, which is fine because this is syncing from one barman server to another barman server. So archiving, definitely we don't need it, right? Because syncing between barman server and barman server. So that works well. So if we list this location, we're able to see that it got created one here. And look, it shows that backups are already coming in immediately. Right? I think it's always see that somehow. Yeah, you see here, see SSH. If you look at rsync, you can see this very well now. It's moving backups at the background. So there are a lot of backups that are coming. You can see the server getting busy here now. So it is actually moving backups from EU and bringing it into USA, as you could see there. So you know we had a lot of backups. So right now, if we go into master EU, right, we're going to see, we go into the base here, right, we're going to see that we have backups that are coming in. Definitely a lot of backups coming in, right? And we're going to see a whole lot more of that. Okay. So, yeah, so now the type of configuration we have here is that whatever backup we do here is sync over there, and whatever backup we do over here is sync over there, right? So in this server itself, uh, for EU here, we had a couple of backups. Let's just do list backup. List backup for our EU server. So we have how many here? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So we have 9 here. So we're expecting 9 backups to come over here. See, they're coming in gradually. So this is 3 now, right? And they're coming in on this server. So what we have here is that we kind of have a, a, a cross configuration now. That means if I take backups in USA, it will automatically sync over to EU. And if I take backups in EU, it will automatically sync over to USA. And the reason is that you can, if you see this configuration files that we've used here, you have the possibility of having your own retention policy, right? You can set your own retention policy for those backups, right? You can actually configure it here, or you have it in the actual global section. You can add the retention policy inside this file, or you can have it in a global section. So that is that. I think we've kind of touched a lot today. We've gone through uh, um, a whole lot of things, and for this geographical redundancy, we've seen how we can use the sync info, the sync backup. There's also what they call the sync war files, which you can do to without sync war files too as well, right? So we've seen a couple of things already with Barman already. We've seen how we can configure wall stream. We've seen how we can use a synchronous wall archive. We've looked at replication status, sync our replication slot. We've seen how we can use rsync. We've seen how we can use barman-wal-archive, barman-wal-restore. We've seen how we can do restore locally. We can do restore remotely. We can do point in time recovery. We've looked at different types of barman commands, and we've run some of them. We've, we've seen quite a whole lot already, and seen how we could do incremental backups and all of that. And remember, I said incremental backups work only for rsync. You can use incremental backups for Postgres. When you're running Postgres, it can work. And to quickly show you that, just to for you to be sure to see what I'm saying, is that if I come over here on the Postgres side here, right? If I look for that command in here, if I reuse, I think it's reuse backup, which is set to link. I Okay, if I open the Postgres configuration, the the configuration file here, if I open the configuration file here and I add something in here, like, because you won't even see it there, right? It's because it's not even here. It's not even in this file. Reuse backup, and I specified that to link, right? If I save this and then if I run the barman check here, you'll see what error it will give me. It's going to tell me that it's not possible for that. Barman check, master USA. We see here, it's a reuse backup option is not supported for Postgres as backup method. All right. So when you use Postgres as a backup method, this reuse backup is not supported. So that's why I said you can only use that for a link, for a sync. Sorry. All right. So that's what I wanted to show you. If I take that out, then it should be fine. So I just take that out, and then now barman, everything should be cleared out. So we've gone through a lot and kind of done a live demo. We had a little bit of, you know, some troubleshooting there, but that was also helpful as well. All right, guys, take care and let me know if you have any questions I can help you with. Thank you.